the OpenAI Foundation will hold $130 billion stake, 26% of the new company. And the OpenAI Group is now what's called a PBE, a public benefit corporation. Salim, you and I did that move with Singularity University, converting it from a nonprofit to a for-profit and spinning out
exactly this was a benefit corporation with a nonprofit alongside.
And so here's the ownership.
Point, actually. So a B Corp can do anything a C Corp can do. So, go public, raise money,
this
be profitable.
This is a great point that you're making, Dave.
So.
For the viewers, from a taxation and legal perspective, a B Corp is exactly the same as a C Corp.
Which is every other public company. Yeah.
The detachment is that in a C Corp, if the board is obligated towards financial optimization and can be sued if they're seen not to be doing that, whereas in a B Corp, the board is obligated towards whatever the mandate is of the B Corp and can be sued for that in theory.
I love the percentage ownership here. So here we go. Microsoft owns 27%. The nonprofit owns 26%, and the remaining is owned by OpenAI PBC at 47%. And this restructuring is going to allow OpenAI to go out and raise money. But here's the rub. Elon's lawsuit against OpenAI remains active. And his bid to try and block the restructuring was denied in court. But the case will proceed to trial in the spring of 2026 is what I read about. And the implications are interesting, right? So number one, the court could order a rescission that unwinds the OpenAI for-profit PBC structure and restore the nonprofit control. Number two, the key deals, such as revenue sharing with Microsoft, could be voided or renegotiated. And number three, there are potential damage fees and reduced fundraising flexibility for the PBC that could result. So that's going to be interesting drama in a year from now.
Yeah, Alex, if you look at the valuation of the company, the market does not believe any of those problems will actually be material.
For sure.
So it seems unlikely. But I think it is, Elon's got a very valid point in that, that whole time you're a nonprofit, you're not paying any tax. And if you're secretly building a massively profitable, $1 trillion company while avoiding taxes, that's a terrible precedent. You can't do that. And Elon even said it, like if that were legal, everybody would do that and start your company as a charity. So I think the courts will have to say, yeah, you can't do that. And the penalty be like $1 or something, just like they did with Microsoft antitrust. You're like, okay, you're guilty. You're totally guilty. You're fined $1.
They were fined $1?
$1, yeah, that was the whole Microsoft, the whole kill Netscape, destroy the entire Mark Andreessen, you're out of a job. Like, what's the cost? $1.
Wow.
The same thing happened, by the way, in the 50s when Goodyear and GM banded together and bought all the train tracks in LA and ripped them out and privatized them and just ripped them out. In the court, there was an antitrust and they got fined $1.
I'd like to point out maybe quickly two possible societal goods here. One is that this results in one of the world's largest nonprofits being created that now has the backing of a frontier lab. And the stated goal of the new OpenAI nonprofit, one of their first goals is to spend $25 billion using AI to solve disease. And I think that's a tremendous societal good. We've spoken here in the past about how AI has the potential to solve disease and biology in the next 5 years. I think this is another arrow in the quiver of making that happen. Second societal good, one of the things I worry about is what happens if a private frontier lab develops incredible superintelligence and decouples from the human economy. I think putting OpenAI on a trajectory where it can reasonably be expected to go public sometime in the next 2 to 3 years, I think an IPO by OpenAI and other frontier labs and putting the equity in the hands of retail investors and index funds is almost certainly a net societal good because it keeps the economic interests of large chunks of humanity aligned with these frontier labs and vice versa.
Well, corollary to all that too, Alex, I think that, everyone's like, hey, Brendan Foodie, Mercor, he's a billionaire at age 23. He spent an immense amount of time inside OpenAI's building. And we saw him there in the lobby last time we were there. If you think, what's my life mission? Am I starting a company? Am I, changing the world? Am I solving all disease? Regardless of what your life mission is, think about the impact of $25 billion of charitable money just to solve disease. What about the other $100 billion? Where's that going to go? So if you're involved in this in any way, and you don't have a strategy for how you interact with OpenAI, how am I in that building? How am I relevant? How am I going to be, when they start turning to commercialization and goods through the AI engine, how do I interconnect with that? I ask all these entrepreneurs, what's your OpenAI strategy? And a lot of them have no answer. But you think about the scale just of what Alex just said.
This is the largest nonprofit in terms of capital base, and it will be even bigger. It'll reach $500 billion. And Dave, you remember you and I met with, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't think it's been officially released, the individual who's a co-founder there that will likely run this OpenAI Foundation. And we're talking about potentially spinning up some X Prizes as a means. He was very knowledgeable about these ideas of incentive competitions to sort of leverage capital 10x. And we just learned this year that the numbers from X Prize is we leverage every dollar in the purse by 60-fold. So imagine if $100 billion becomes $6 trillion of leverage. What a fun time ahead.
You will think about the scale too. It's just exactly a great point that a normal big X Prize is $100 million prize. And here you're talking about $130 billion, which, if the stock goes up post IPO, could be $260 billion. So all they have to do is, sell some shares and fund a $100 million prize. Could do that every day of the week.
I dream about having 10 $1 billion prizes for the 10 biggest problems. It would steer where students spend their time, where founding partners focus on building companies. I mean, it would be sort of a flame to the entrepreneurial moths out there.
Can I take the other side of this just for a second?
Sure. Of course you should.
Virtue signaling, greenwashing, they're putting all this money over there and then going full speed towards the IPO and hoping that the good that they can do will kind of balance the crazy path to greed.
Do not notice the man behind the screen.